about to start my sermon with, since it's recorded, might get me in trouble. But this morning we continue our journey through Paul's letter to the Ephesians. Typically, I'm not a fan of Paul. He seems to write in circles. He seems that his writing was where you got paid by the word he wrote. Or maybe his professor said this letter has to have X number of words for it to be acceptable. And so he just keeps adding things around and around and around. Yet, today, what he says in this piece that we hear is really, really important for us to hear. Because as a society, we don't hear that we are loved nearly enough. At the 9 o'clock service this morning, Martha sang a song. It's a new song to the congregation, and it's titled "Reckless Love" by Corey Asbury. If you aren't familiar, I challenge you to go listen to it. And I know some of you aren't into that Christian rock music, but I'm not asking you to listen to it for the music. I'm asking you to listen to it for the words. Because the words go, "There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, it chases me down, fights till I'm found, leaves the 99. And I couldn't earn it. I don't deserve it. Still, you give yourself away." In those lyrics, we hear the message that Paul wants us to hear. God's love is overwhelming. And I'm thankful that she sang it, because for the youth that just came back from the mission trip, that is a song that they hold near to their heart. Paul writes in his letter this morning, "I pray that you may have the power to comprehend with all the saints what is the breadth and length and height and depth, and to know the love of Christ that surpasses knowledge, so that you may be filled with the fullness of God." The love, the reckless love of God. While we were in Pittsburgh, over the course of the week, we were shown how much love God gives to God's people. Our group was split into 2 work groups. Both groups were given the task to work and build or rebuild somebody's front porch. While it sounds pretty simple, the actual task was anything but simple. between a lack of building supplies, proper power tools, the extreme heat and humidity, and just the geography of Pittsburgh. Neither group was able to finish their project. For teenagers and for adults, not being able to finish a project, having to leave without seeing the finished project, is a real downer. It makes you feel as if nothing was accomplished. But yet, even with the setbacks on the job sites that we encountered, each of us was able to experience the love of God that comes after us. This mission trip was different than most. This mission trip wasn't looking back so much about the work that we were doing as much as the learning that we were accomplishing. When we became angry, frustrated, that we couldn't dig a simple 2-foot hole in 8 hours, God showed up. God showed that He loves us. For my group, the one that couldn't dig a hole, God showed up in the form of a water company work crew. The homeowner lived on a corner, and there was a water leak in the street. And so all week, the water company was searching for that leak. And it was found directly in front of our homeowner's house. That could have happened anywhere, but it was directly in front of our homeowner's house. And that was an act of God. Because what we encountered was a work crew that was God. When we couldn't dig the hole, I was brazen enough to ask them, "Can we use your backhoe? That would be much easier." And the crew said, "Unfortunately not, because we don't know what lines are hidden underground, and if we hit something, it's our responsibility." And I'm like, okay. But what he did next was unthinkable. He went to his crew and said, "Let's go." They all came into the front yard and started digging the hole for us. In 20 minutes, the hole was finished. Talk about feeling helpless. But the thing is, it was their love that they showed to our work group. When we were trying to put a ledger board on the front of the house to hang the deck on, they didn't give us the right drill. And the water company opened their truck and said, "Our tools are your tools. Whatever you need, you can use." When one member of our crew electrocuted himself, they dropped everything they were doing. The water crew saw it happen, came over, calmed him down, assessed the situation, spent time out of their work to ensure that the rest of our group understood it was okay, and he needs to get to the hospital. For the other group, it wasn't quite as exciting, shocking. God showed up in the person of an upstairs neighbor. I never met this man, but I'm asking you to close your eyes and think about a man that is a cross between a Rastafarian, Bob Marley type person and a homeless person. They described him as a true character. But he gave of himself. One day it was hot, they were frustrated, and he came walking down the steps and said, I bought this watermelon, but I think you need it more than I do. And he sat and cut it up and gave it to all of the kids. He was willing to give of his possessions without ever asking what could be given in return. In each of those instances, our friends, our new friends, gave of themselves for others. In this morning's gospel reading, Jesus is once again with his disciples when a crowd gathers. As the consummate caregiver, Jesus wants to ensure that the crowd has nourishment. So with the meager quantities of a boy, 5 loaves and 2 fish, Jesus is able to provide for everyone. That, my friends, is true love. A miraculous love of God showing up in the least expected places, providing what God's people need, never asking for anything in return. Each and every Sunday, God meets us here in this sanctuary. He nourishes us as we gather around the altar, providing us sustenance for the week ahead. He gives us new life in something that we could never, ever return. In Pittsburgh, each day, we all gathered in the sanctuary at the end of the day to worship. We worship the God of love, the God that provides. And while the worship we experienced may not have looked like anything any youth or Episcopalian would ever have seen, God was present. It was filled with the presence of the holy. It was a time of worship in which God presented himself to each of us, telling us, there is no shadow I won't light up, mountain I won't climb up, coming after you. There's no wall I won't kick down, lie I won't tear down, coming after you. For those of us present in Pittsburgh, and for those of us present here today, God is here. God is present. And God is ensuring that each one of us know what is the breadth and length and height and depth of God's love. And for that I say, thanks be to God.